Training camp rolling on here in Florham Park as the Jets take the field for their 5th training camp practice. This is Jets Training Camp live at Jets 360 Productions. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen on set, Olivia Landis on the field will be joining us later. The radio team of the Jets, Bob Wischusen and Marty Lyons, will also be joining the show later on. EA, it's crazy to think that we're this far into training camp. It feels like it's short, it's fast, all at the same time. You can talk about a number of different things that have stood out over these past 4 practices, but one, tempo, competitive juices flowing everywhere, and really what stood out to me is just the give and take of the offense and the defense.
Greens, this is a great vibe here in Florham Park. There's no doubt about that. A lot of new, as we talked about so many times, new head coach in Adam Gase, a new defensive coordinator in Greg Williams, a new general manager in Joe Douglas. But watching the offense and defense go toe-to-toe every day has been fun because the offense had its moments. Sam Darnold was going up vertically big time over the weekend, and the offense seemed to be a little bit ahead. But yesterday, I thought, Sunday's practice, the defense was all over the place, and they were led by one of the alpha males in the secondary, budding star, Jamal Adams.
I totally agree with you. And just in terms of the offense, real quick, it was really fun to watch them practice Friday and Saturday, really aggressive. And then, like you said, yesterday's practice, Jamal Adams really set the tone for that defense. Right in the first team period, 2 pass defenses, and shout out to Jamal clocking in at number 37 on the NFL's top 100 after not being ranked a year ago. What a year for Jamal Adams in 2018 when you talk about the Pro Bowl, second team All-Pro, what he did for this team. But what can we expect now moving forward in year 3 for Mr. Adams?
I'm glad you're talking about Adams because he defines Jets training camp practices as a show. And when I heard that, I was like, what is he talking about? Well, he explained. He said, when I'm talking about show, that means we have to take care of the little details. We have to be on point each and every rep. Jamal, you know what? He is becoming a veteran, and his tenor of his opinions have changed, I think, because he's saying, listen, it's not about I, it's about we. And also, he said that no expectations. We're not putting any expectations on ourselves. He's just taking and embracing things in the moment right now for this team.
I think maybe the most impressive part of Adams' sophomore campaign is his coverage ability, because we all knew his rookie year really down in the box a lot, very much a force in the run game. But last year, not only did he lead or did he rank second on the team in tackles, he was second on the team in pass defenses. And now under Greg Williams and in this system, it really feels like Greg was made for Jamal and Jamal was made for Greg, and he's going to have another great season in green and white.
His eyes are better. There's no doubt about that, and that comes with time. He's always been such a great instinctual player, and he's so sudden. But there's nothing on a football field that Jamal Adams can't do. I think early on in his career, a lot of people labeled him as a box safety. If you come out here and watch him each and every day in practice, he can do everything. Yeah, you mentioned his PDs early in practice on Sunday. He set the tone for this team. He's a big-time hitter. He can come down and be an awfully effective blitzer. In fact, I think Greg Williams is going to be sending 33 on opposing quarterbacks on a number of occasions this year. But he reads the play so well, and when he's out there on the field making plays, everybody, it's an infectious. He plays with an infectious style, and everybody just follows his lead.
I mean, it's infectious to me on the sideline, so I can only imagine what it's like for the players. But his running mate, Marcus May, still on the physically unable to perform list. The Jets hoped that he had been ready for the start of training camp. That was not the case. So in turn, Rontez Miles has been running with the first team alongside Adams.
Yeah, it's a tough break for Marcus May, because you remember in the spring, Greens, Adam Gase had said, we expect him to be full go once training camp starts. He was limited to 6 games last year, and the Jets were awfully excited about that pair at safety, the duo, Jamal Adams and Marcus May, but he's still dealing with some shoulder issues right now and has not been cleared. But with that being said, on the other side of the coin, this is a wonderful opportunity for Rontez Miles, the Tasmanian Devil. We know he's a core special teamer for Brant Boyer, but he's getting good work with the ones alongside Adams right now.
So Adams clearly took a jump in his second season. The Jets hoping Sam Darnold takes a similar jump in his second season in 2019. And given the recent trend in the NFL of sophomore quarterbacks taking that jump, and when you factor that in along with the supporting cast the Jets now have in place around Sam, the groundwork has been laid, and it really looks like Sam's enjoying his time in this offense so far.
Well, who wouldn't? I think Adam Gase is such a creative offensive mind, Greens. You're seeing him use his personnel, the way he deploys his packages out there, getting the running backs involved in the passing game. But I think those guys have hit it off from day one, and that's just continued here in training camp. The first day, the defense probably won a little bit more, and then Gase and Sam Darnold went back and said, okay, well, maybe they're sitting on some intermediate stuff. Let's go down the field. And we saw Sam Darnold open it up down the sideline to Ty Montgomery, coming back on another team period and hitting Robbie Anderson after he looked defenders off to his left, Greens, and then came back to his right. Quincy Enunwa made a couple gorgeous catches here early in camp. But Sam Darnold, he's off to a solid start here in training camp.
So what do you think that he needs to do in training camp before the preseason, before the regular season, to basically ensure, maybe ensure is a bit of a strong word, but to continue to lay the groundwork, stack days, to take that jump that a lot of Jets fans are hoping to see him take?
Well, I think we saw him take a jump late in his rookie season when he came back from the foot injury that he suffered, ironically, against the Miami Dolphins. Had a chance to take a step back and watch Josh McCown command the offense, not only in game action but in practices. But what we saw from Darnold down the stretch is that his feet were quieter. He uses athleticism on third downs, but I think what we're going to see this year in year 2 for Darnold is Adam Gase has stressed the importance of taking what the defense gives you. So maybe when it's not down the field there early on, just take your dump to a running back, your outlet receiver, pick up 5 yards or so, and stay ahead of the sticks, Greens. Maintain favorable downs and distances, and then you're going to have more plays and more scoring opportunities.
Well, I really think just listening to Sam, he seems more confident, but while we're talking about his play on the field, something that stood out to me is perhaps maybe the most important factor, Sam's development as a leader. He's not the vocal guy Jamal Adams is, we know that, but he said that now that he knows a lot of his teammates, he's able to light different fires underneath each person based on how they like it. Meaning, some guys like to be called out in front of their teammates so they can then prove to their guys their worth, or some guys need to be talked to on the side. So as Sam develops on the field, I also think it's very beneficial for this team, for him. Adam Gase said it, that's maybe the most important thing for Sam, is to develop as a leader off of the field.
Well, the thing that Gase also stresses is that he is a natural leader, and I was struck by the comments of Darnold when he was talking to the media in the tent the other day. He said, I'm ready to roll, and you just sense a confidence about this guy. Now remember, this is really his first true professional offseason. He gets drafted number 3 overall, and the process is so fast, your rookie season. Now he had a chance in January to go home, look at tape, talk to Sam Darnold, experience all the OTAs and the mini camps, and then come back. So a confident quarterback, and you're right, he is showing more leadership abilities, but he just is a natural leader.
I remember a story from USC about Juju Smith-Schuster. He was goofing off a little bit in practice, no diss to Juju, but Sam went up to him by the side and said, hey man, like, we can't be doing that. And Juju was like, okay, yeah, you're totally right. Clearly developed as a leader there. I think we'll continue to do the same here. And over the weekend, the Jets had a very special visitor here at the training facility. So for more on that, let's throw it down to the field and Olivia Landis.
Thanks, guys. Now, as you can see behind me, the quarterbacks are working out, getting some reps in, but somebody I really want to focus on is number 14, who had a special visitor on day 2 of training camp. Josh McCown decided to pay a visit to one Jets drive, and of course he wasted absolutely no time in coming to the field and finding Darnold and throwing the ball around with him during warm-ups. When you think of Darnold and McCown from last season, you think of the special bond that these two really held, with McCown being a vet in his 16th season and Darnold being a rookie. So McCown really took it upon himself to take Sam under his wing and spent his final season in the NFL mentoring this young quarterback. When Josh was asked about Sam's step in year 2 and how he can really make that progression, he said, listen, expect to see more of what we all witnessed from Sam after he returned from that injury late in the season when Sam showed massive improvements. McCown also talked about Adam Gase being a huge resource for Darnold and how his experience around great football minds like Peyton Manning are so valuable. Now, when Sam took to the podium and addressed the media, he said, me and Josh McCown, we really talk almost every other day, not only about football, but about life in general. But nowadays, we communicate through Snapchat. That's the update I have for you guys on the field. Eric, Ethan, back to you on set.
Josh McCown, always a welcome visitor here at the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. We didn't see him on the screen, which is fine because he was here a couple days ago, but I can confirm the hair as good as ever.
Yeah, the hair is. Don't worry about the product greens. Yeah, he's got a full head, but so does the 22-year-old who we're watching right now.
Last year,
Sam
McCown and Darnold were like
those great images side to side of the two. But you got to credit Josh McCown for what he did for Sam Darnold, with Sam Darnold in year 1, and that's going to help him here in year 2. Interesting to see who's going to be the guy behind him. Trevor Siemian, a lot of experience in the National Football League, and you also get Davis Webb as well, and then Luke Falk.
It's one of the things that we love about training camp battles, so we'll see who clocks in at number 2 on Final Cuts Day. Well, let's tie the bow here on Darnold. One last thing. Last year, before the injury, Darnold was a bit turnover prone, 14 picks, 9 games, then he went down, only 1 interception down the stretch. But how do you think that this offense helps Darnold, or how do you think Adam and Sam will address Sam turning the ball over so it's not the same this year?
Well, I think you made a great point with your stat there, Greens, is that let's remember that Darnold only had 1 interception over those last quarter of games. And then remember, a lot of people were talking about Sam Darnold's ball security coming out of USC, that there were a lot of strip sacks. Do you know how many strip sacks he had last year? 1, that's right. That came in Week 17 against the New England Patriots. So when Sam Darnold puts his mind to something, he's going to get it right. I think he knows the importance of turnovers. He stresses that all the time. He had 15 picks in all last year, 17 touchdown passes, I believe. But again, sometimes it's not there down the field. And what's going to help Darnold this year is the guys out of the backfield as outlets for Darnold, I think.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned those guys because we've seen a lot of Sam, we've seen a lot of Jamal. Someone we want to see a lot of but haven't seen a ton of yet, right there, 2'6", Le'Veon Bell, back-to-back days that his practices were cut short because of a drug test. And then yesterday, he cramped up a little bit, so he cut it short just to make sure he's fine. Everything's okay, don't worry. But Le'Veon Bell is going to be a key cog in this offense, but we haven't seen a full workload for Le'Veon just yet.
Yeah, but we should say that Sunday was the most work we've seen of Le'Veon Bell so far in camp. Again, this guy is in magnificent shape. Consider that he ran the conditioning test twice.
Just for fun.
I think to prove a point to his teammates. Guy loves to compete. I also like what he said about his workload. He doesn't care if he gets 500 touches, 600 touches, or 14 touches. Guy wants to win a Super Bowl. I don't think you got to worry about Le'Veon Bell. He's going to be getting the football a lot in 2019. But Adam Gase is going to be, I don't want to say cautious, but they're going to monitor his workload here early in camp. This is his first training camp in 2 years. He did not play last year. And you have a number of capable understudies behind Bell.
Absolutely. We're going to touch on one of those guys in Ty Montgomery just in a bit, but just the other day, with Le'Veon's practice cut short, Trenton Cannon actually got some first-team reps, and you've seen guys like Bilal Powell, Eli McGuire, everyone's getting a chunk of first-team reps, which is very valuable for these guys. Adam Gase said it wasn't really by design, but with injuries, that's a game-like situation where your number might be called when you're least expecting it, and you have to go in there and make plays.
There you see Le'Veon Bell with his running backs coach, Jim Bob Cooter. Listen, Le'Veon Bell is an offensive weapon who's very unique. I know we overused the word unique, but he is rare in his running style, his vision, and also what he can do in terms of being a receiver who's going to be able to help Sam Darnold. And sometimes Darnold will look down the field and maybe Bell is one of his first options, but again, this guy coming out of the backfield, you can use him all over the formations. But you mentioned it before, this running back position is so deep, Greens. Le'Veon Bell, Ty Montgomery has been one of the early stars in camp. You got Bilal Powell here. Trenton Cannon is in that backfield as well, and Eli McGuire. Can't forget about him either.
You know, in terms of Bell's receiving prowess, he actually has the most amount of career receiving yards on this Jets team with just over 2,600. Now, that's going to change, of course. He's been in the league a long time compared to some of these other guys like Robbie and Quincy. But I've really enjoyed watching Montgomery and Le'Veon Bell in the backfield together, because I just think those two guys are so diverse, and when you factor those two guys in along with Robbie Anderson and Quincy and Jamison Crowder, Chris Herndon, I mean, Sam Darnold really has a lot of options. And I know you mentioned it before that Ty Montgomery has been impressive so far in camp. He said yesterday at the podium that he wants to remind people he's good at what he does. He was just hurt last year, and I think that has been on full display through 4 practices.
Greens, I got to be honest, I didn't know what to expect from Ty Montgomery. The Green Bay got rid of him during the season last year. He finished out the year with the Baltimore Ravens. But this is an explosive player. He's a versatile player. He's wearing number 88. The Jets are calling him running back / receiver. He also can return if you need him. But the Jets are going to have the luxury of what they want to do with, like you mentioned, Bell and Montgomery. You can put them in a game at the same time, and they both can line up outside the numbers at receiver. You can put them in the slot. You can do anything you want with them. Ty Montgomery is an extremely versatile and explosive player, and I think what he said yesterday when Bell went out, I don't want there to be any drop-off.
Cool.
And if you watch practice yesterday, it's hard to compare anybody to Le'Veon Bell, but Ty Montgomery really stepped up his game.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't really compare the two because Le'Veon Bell is one of the elite players in this league. But when Ty Montgomery was in there earlier on in practice and training camp and even in the spring, the offense was humming.
Yeah.
And you saw it a couple days ago, the first play, I believe it was Friday's practice, Ty Montgomery lines out wide, shoots up the sideline, big gain, then he had a big run.
Got to step on C.J. Mosley,
Yeah, and so Ty Montgomery is extremely versatile, and as a rusher, as a receiver, the one thing that you briefly mentioned is his return ability. Now, obviously, he's most well known for a return that did not go his way in Green Bay, which eventually led him to the Baltimore Ravens. But Ty Montgomery is a solid kick returner in this league, and actually he's one of 2 guys that has a lot of experience back there, along with Deontay Thompson. But we'll see how that plays out. That's a whole other conversation.
We could talk about that for a half an hour.
That could be a show, the returner.
I got my chart, and I go through the numbers each day. It seems like sometimes half the roster's getting an opportunity at those return spots.
All right, let's just flip sides of the ball here. Let's go to Quinnen Williams for a minute. Missed 1 day of practice, okay, no biggie. Then Adam Gase said he was going to watch the film, see how he did in his first practice. He said he didn't make a lot of plays. Candidly, Adam Gase said didn't make a lot of plays, but he did show a lot of good stuff in his first practice. So I don't want to ask you what your early impressions are of Quinnen, because I think it's difficult to evaluate an interior guy like that, especially after a couple. But How long do you think it'll take somebody like Quinnen, who's extremely productive on the college level, the number 3 overall pick, to acclimate himself to this Jets team and then make plays and be a factor on the front?
Well, Greens, let's just say he walked into a perfect situation. He's got Steve McClendon there in the middle, the veteran philosopher, run stuffer on this defensive line. Leonard Williams up front as well, who's still a young guy, even though he's one of the most experienced players on this roster in terms of tenure. And I think the Big Cat is poised for a big season. Henry Anderson came in last year, and he gave you a lot of good pass rushing ability in those sub packages. But you mentioned Quinnen Williams. He came into camp at 295. He played last year at Alabama at 304. And you know what? He credited for his training regimen as far as why he looks so good.
Yeah, it's great.
YouTube.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I haven't taken track lessons on YouTube, but in order to tie a tie, I went to YouTube when I was in high school because I had a dress code, so I wanted to make sure I had a good-looking knot.
I went to my father in order to help me tie a tie.
My father helped me tie a tie, but then I didn't like the knot he was tying, and I said, you know what, I want to make a nice looking knot, so I went to YouTube and everyone complimented me on how well my ties look. So I can say YouTube is a friend for Ethan Greenberg. It is a friend for Quinnen Williams.
What player did he say? What player did Quinnen Williams say also uses? Did he take some of their workouts from? Didn't he credit one of the players?
Yeah, I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But Quinnen's a young dude. He's great. I'm anticipating big things from Quinnen, but I do have a question.
He's a number 3 overall pick in the draft. The bottom line is, and listen, he can play up and down the line. He can even play nose at times. 3 technique. Don't get caught up in the 3-4, 4-3. Quinnen Williams is going to be a big part of this rotation, and he is an explosive player, built solidly at 295. Tremendous feet, violent hands. I agree with you. I think this Jets defensive line is going to be awfully solid, and that's one of the reasons why C.J. Mosley said, okay, yeah, I'll sign with you guys. The money's good, but I want to make sure who's up front. Those guys up front, talented group.
Real quick, is this the most talented the Jets defensive line has been since Leonard Williams came on this team in 2015 when he walked into another very good situation with Sheldon Richardson, Damon Harrison, and Mo?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, without a question. Now, what I would caution everyone is, remember, I don't know if those guys, and they probably each to a man would say that they thought they would have became more together. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons, that didn't happen. But you have a foundation here to be one of the better defensive lines of football. There's no doubt about that. You can make the argument that Quinnen Williams was a top overall talent in the 2019 draft.
So, from one Alabama player to a former Alabama player, Olivia Landis on the sideline now with Marty Lyons.
Thanks, guys. I'm currently here with Jets legend Marty Lyons. Marty, obviously the defense added some key pieces to the line this offseason, but most notably Quinnen Williams, who we now see out at practice. How can he really contribute to this defensive line?
Well, I think the best thing that he can do is come in and learn the system, first of all, and realize that, you know, in Greg Williams' defense, you're going to move around. You're not going to be stationary. You may be over the center one play, over the guard, over the tackle. Just listen to the veteran players and learn the system, and then go out there and execute.
You mentioned Greg Williams and how he really moves his players around. He's also talked about that, as well as Adam Gase. Why is that so unique, and how can that help players develop being able to play multiple positions?
Well, I go back to Joe Klecko. Look at him. He made All-Pro at 3 different positions. He was able to line up over the center, the guard, and he had the athletic ability to line up over the tackle. Anytime that you have that type of talented athlete, you're going to keep the defense guessing. I mean, keep the offense guessing, because they don't know where you're going to line up. They can't isolate on one particular player, and I think it's going to help the whole defensive line.
Marty, who do you think may have a standout season this year?
Well, I think everybody's going to have a standout year. Just watching the practice, you see the intensity. There's not a lot of grab-assing going on. Everybody understands that it's a new season, and everybody as a player and as an organization should be saying, why not us?
Thanks, Marty. Eric, Ethan, back to you guys.
Thanks, Liv. Let's keep things on the defensive line from Quinnen Williams to Leonard Williams, because you mentioned him earlier. You're expecting a big year from the Big Cat. Greg Williams said he plans to cut the Big Cat loose. Now, what in the world does that mean?
I don't know. Like we mentioned before, Greg Williams got 42 packages of defense.
Yeah, we know he's the defensive guru, the defensive whiz. But to me, when I heard cut the Big Cat loose, one, I got excited because to me it felt like maybe Leonard had more of a run-stopping role in his past couple seasons than rushing the passer. And I think if you're cutting the Big Cat loose, and now that the Jets have a formidable front with the guys that we've talked about, Henry Anderson, Quinnen, that just maybe Big Cat will be high in the sack column this year.
Here's my thing about Greg Williams, okay? We're watching Leonard Williams. We got a lot of Williams on the Jets right now, Greens, is that there's not going to be read and react from your defensive lineman. It's all about penetration and getting up the field. Leonard Williams has been a beast here early in camp, and I don't want to mention some offensive linemen, some of the offensive linemen's names, because he's abused guys at times. Guy is long, he's mean, he's strong, he has come to camp in great athletic shape, and he's another guy who can line up he can line up as far wide as end, and then he can move them right inside in those sub packages, and he's going to be a handful for any interior player in the National Football League.
You know, just as we're watching all this B-roll come through, I've noticed that all players that have been shown have been in full leg pads. So what that means, we don't know. Maybe there'll be some live periods today.
Maybe some goal line.
Maybe some goal line, but something to keep an eye on here. And, of course, Leonard Williams will be in the front of that, considering where he plays. And he's made a couple plays the past couple days, and especially from a run-stopping perspective. I mean, just the other day, he blew up somebody. I didn't know who it was. And, again, even if I did know, I wouldn't name names because we're not into that business here. But Leonard stopped Le'Veon Bell in the backfield a couple times. And I think that what you said, Leonard is poised for a big year, and he didn't lead the Jets in sacks last year. That was Jordan Jenkins.
And Henry Anderson.
Yep. So I want to talk about these guys, particularly Jordan Jenkins, because correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I heard you say, I don't know if it was to me yesterday, if everyone stays healthy, Jordan Jenkins will be the team's leader in sacks.
How about this guy? Now he's bringing up office talk and bringing it on set. Yes, I did say that. Jordan,
I figured you meant it.
I do think Jordan Jenkins is poised to get after it this year, and he got after the quarterback last year. I know he's not a speed demon, but he told me the other day, Greens, he is coming to camp, best shape of his life, under 10% body fat, about 9%, drank a lot of water in the off season, and he's a vocal leader. You know, C.J. Mosley, more of the leader by example. The guy who's going to be getting after in terms of the linebackers vocally, I think it's this guy, number 48, Jordan Jenkins. And I really think he's found his niche here. And you're going to see him, I think, mostly line up on the right side, because oftentimes you're going to see Henry Anderson, your left defensive end, and I consider Jordan Jenkins more of a hybrid now in this defense, because sometimes he'll actually play right defensive end, and then obviously he's going to be outside linebacker as well.
So
standing up or hand in the dirt.
The stock has been trending upwards for Jordan Jenkins. I've said that a lot this offseason. 3 sacks his rookie year, 5, 7 last year, and he has the pass rushing ability to lead this team in sacks. I mean, he led the team with Henry last year, but I really like the work that Jordan Jenkins puts in. And you can tell that he works a lot. And this unit as a whole, the outside backers, underrated year last year in terms of how they produced on the team. Brandon Copeland had a career year last year. He had 5 sacks. And then even somebody like Frankie Louvu, I mean, he only had 3 sacks. He had 20 quarterback hits last year. Undrafted rookie. I mean, these guys really fight hard, and I think that they're poised to take a next step in 2019 with the defensive line in Quinnen Williams, Leonard, Henry, and Steve.
Well, yeah, you just mentioned it. It's that the Jets are going to be a handful on the interior, so I figure that's going to free some guys up for some favorable situations on the outside, no doubt about that, Greens. And it's going to be interesting across from Jordan Jenkins, like you mentioned before. You got Copeland, Frankie Louisville we've seen out here getting some first-team reps. Harvey Lange as well. So Greg Williams continues to tinker with his personnel, and I know a lot of people on the sidelines are sometimes like, oh my God, this guy's in with the first team defense. Well, he's going to continue to switch it up all throughout training camp and the regular season.
That's all we have here for Jets Training Camp Live. Many thanks to Marty Lyons, Olivia Landis, for Eric Allen. I'm Ethan Greenberg, and don't forget NewYorkJets.com, free ticket to the green and white practice, MetLife Stadium, August 18th. We'll see you there.